The Bills have officially made their decision. It was a weird road to get here.
It was.
I think, but they are going to not only retain their offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, he's now the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. This, to me, Chris, just from the outside looking in, feels like the quarterback really did have a lot of influence here. We know he was involved in these interviews.
Sure.
I don't know. When they moved on from McDermott, I don't know if this was automatically their plan no matter what. It feels like they did talk to a lot of people, got a feel. I think, though, knowing the Bills fan base the way I do, the Jets playing in their division, I do a ton of radio up in Buffalo. They have an awesome group of media members that I really enjoy speaking with.
Right.
The fan base isn't thrilled by this move right now. I think they just, not angry, but they're kind of like, wait.
We got rid of McDermott, and we don't know exactly where we want to go. Did you have a sense of where you think the fan base wanted to go in this one right here?
I think they wanted the idea of something new, the unknown, rather than what we do know. The Udinskis of the world, the Kubiaks of the world, Shieldhouse, guys that are younger offense. And Joe Brady's not old. But just can one of these guys take our offense to the next level while we get a defensive coordinator that can maintain what we have? Well, I think a lot of Bills fans were disappointed in Joe Brady this year for the most part. Not the entire year, but it was a little bit more bumpier than what they're accustomed to seeing with the Josh Allen offense.
Yeah, I hear you there. And listen, I understand that somewhat with the Bills. To me, though, and what it has looked like for really the last 4 or 5 days, I've kind of been telling everybody I expect it to be Joe Brady or Brian Daboll. That's kind of who I thought it would be, right? And I don't know if any of those blow Buffalo fans out the door. But I think out of all the options you have and some of the people you mentioned with Udinsky and Steelcase and everybody else there, I go, no, I like Joe Brady the best. I do. I really do. Joe Brady did some really good things as an offensive coordinator there. And again, we're going to double down, or at least I am on this point, to go, there's not a group of all-stars he has on the offensive side of the ball. Let's not forget that. But what Joe Brady has brought without number one receivers or a number two receiver on their football team the last few years is a little bit of, hey, we're going to run the ball. We're going to be physical, right? We saw some game plan specific plays in the Denver game where he got people open for big plays, right? He's got a feel for that, even without having that marquee, ooh, you got to favor this guy or you got to double this guy, right? And that can open up so much of the offense. He hasn't had that ability. So, I do like his offense. I think it has a little bit of everything. He's shown that he can adjust no matter what kind of game it is and do it off of that. And there's something too, and we're seeing this a little bit in the coaching cycle here of like, we're making a coaching change, but we're not veering off too far from the coaching tree itself, right? Like, there's some principles I got to think the Buffalo decision makers are looking at and go, yeah, we fired McDermott, but there's been a lot of good things about our organization, the way it's run, and this guy is probably going to be somewhat close to running it that way with his own little touch and feel off of that. Our quarterback likes him. He loves him. Out of the other guys you talked about that are offensive coordinators or big offensive coordinator names to be head coaches, I think Joe Brady stacks right up there with any of them. And he's been calling the plays and really in that, where it's like, the
other guys haven't, besides Kubiak.
Exactly right. And this is Kubiak's, second year? 1 year with the Saints and then this year, right? And again, so that's where I give Joe Brady, the advantage over some of the other guys that we're mentioning too, because, they're behind the guy calling the plays. He's been the guy running the offense. I do think he's got a lot of good ideas. They're tough. And if Josh Allen likes him, that does mean something.
Means
There's
a lot.
No doubt about that. Right.
I think also one note on Kubiak, if I have this right, because of the complexity of the interviewing rules in the NFL, I'm pretty sure the Bills would not have been able to speak to him, not meet with him, speak to him until February 9th.
Yeah.
So maybe there was a feeling of like, we can't get burned here if we really we just don't know.
It's the most unfair thing about this whole process.
It's not a good system.
It's not
because it hurts somebody like Clint Kubiak, but it also hurts a team like the Bills that might have been interested in exploring more options.
Yeah, they don't want to wait.
You can't. It's February 9th. It's 2 weeks from today. That's a long. We have the Senior Bowl this week for scouting. We have the offseason for free agency heading. Like, you got to get a coach in the room to get this process going.
Yes, I agreed. And then that's where I think there's a lot of coaches in football that wish they would kick things back a little bit. I think there's a lot that we've had this conversation of the combine. There's a lot of coaches, I think, that wish, can we move the combine back a little bit?
It is so
We're
fast.
in the midst of trying to figure out free agency, and you want us to come here and evaluate the college kids, and then, wait, we got to jump back into free agency and then go back to the college kids. And I do think it's a pretty stressful, time-packed kind of 4 or 5 weeks. And, yeah, I do think it's unfair to those who are coaching the best and bringing their team the farthest they have the least opportunities to kind of impress a football team and try to become a head coach off of that, and that's what stings for Clint Kubiak. But I got no problem with the Joe Brady thing. I really don't. And again, like I said, out of the options that are out there, the people that have already been hired, okay, I mean, let me run through it real quick. I mean, Brian Daboll, I do like Brian Daboll, and I do think he deserves another chance at some point, right? But would I been, if I was a Bills fan, like, oh, yeah, we want the Giants retread? No, I'd be more excited about, hey, there's a possibility with this guy. Maybe he can be something. Right. He's grown a lot since he was the offensive coordinator in Carolina, then went to LSU to become the offensive coordinator for Joe Burrow, and then came back.
That.
Is it the other way around?
Yeah, LSU, Carolina.
Yep. He's grown a lot from those moments. My Carolina years, I used to go, man, Joe Brady's offense, like, I got to figure it out after about week 5. I know what he's going to. And he's grown it and become a lot more diverse in that. But so I take him over that. You know, defensive coach, okay. I know Ejiro Evero, he was out there, right? Somebody like that. I don't think they wanted to go the defensive coach route.
Clearly,
again, right? I mean,
how do you fire McDermott and then
go to somebody that
potentially lesser defensive
exactly
coach? That's
right.
a horrible process.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
You know, Clay Kubiak with the 49ers, the future's bright.
Kind of a mystery candidate.
But
right
we also know who's calling the plays and running the ship out there.
That's right.
Shanahan is. So I'd like to see him kind of get a little bit more responsibility before I go, wait, you didn't call the plays, but now we're letting you coach the whole freaking team? That doesn't make sense to me. Clint Kubiak, same type of thing, maybe to a greater degree. At least he's called the plays, and I think he's more deserving, and I can understand that maybe being a narrow race, but the way the league rules are, that's messed up. Matt Nagy, I like him, but I would take Joe Brady. I think there's more of a system there and more of a diverse running game. Mike LaFleur is one I look at out with the Rams and go, ooh, I do think he's got the potential to be something here in the near future. Definitely just between all the coaches he's been with, and I know his knowledge, and I talk to guys like McVay and Shanahan who will tell you, like, yeah, Mike's pretty smart. He knows what he's doing. So the future's bright, but I think when you take all those offensive guys out there, and there's no Ben Johnson or Liam Cohn this year, this is the second year in a row. Joe Brady was just below. I mean, last year he was just below those guys and getting a few interviews. This year, he's the cream of the crop for me as far as the offensive minds are concerned, and I like that for Buffalo.
And some of the guys you mentioned, I think, are going to get some of these jobs. I think Mike LaFleur has a good shot to get the Arizona job.
Yeah.
I think Clint Kubiak has a really good shot to get the Raiders job now.
Right.
So it's not the end of the cycle for those guys. It's just the end of the chance of being the coach of the Buffalo Bills, which happens to be Joe Brady. Pete brought in a different, interesting question in here.
Let's hear it. I like it.
How is Josh Allen liking Joe Brady different from when Baker Mayfield vouched for Freddie Kitchens?
Well, I think, when I look at that, I think Joe Brady's a little more proven, and Josh Allen is a little bit more of a proven mainstay than Baker Mayfield, who was, 2 years in?
It was
and now
early.
telling, right? I mean, I think it was after his second year, and that's kind of when it went down. That, to me, would be where it's a little different. Joe Brady's been on everybody's radar the last few years. Freddie Kitchens was on nobody's radar. I love Freddie. He's the man, right? I mean, he's a guy that when I see him, we always hit it off. He's fun and all that. But, I mean, that was out of nowhere. That was like, oh, yeah, I do like him. He's my buddy. Like, let's try to make him the head coach. This was like, no, this guy's been coaching, had success, good game plans. Do we really want to lose one of the brighter minds in the NFL and have him go somewhere else? And then we go, uh-oh. Damn, that offense is awesome. They got him a little receiver and another running back and another receiver, and holy cow, Joe Brady's offense is awesome. And I think they're probably a little scared of that as well. And I think that goes into the thinking with these type of conversations. A little bit like the Browns. The Browns are in a little spot right now where they're like, man, I don't know. None of these guys are like unbelievable huge candidates, and we arguably have one of the 3 best defensive minds in the building here. Are we really going to let him go and coach some other defense and be dominant when we know we have a guy that can dominate one side of the ball for us? And I think maybe there's some similar thinking there with the Bills and Joe Brady.
All right, so the Bills land on Joe Brady, a familiar face.
Yo. Thanks for watching, homies. We are now in the NFL season here on Chris Simms Unbuttoned.
Hit subscribe to get our weekly picks, game recaps, film deep dives, and much, much more.
Thanks again for watching. Subscribe, rate, review. Peace out. You know where to find us.